Good morning and good afternoon. First, I would like to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope that it will be a much better year than our previous experience has been for us all. A lot has happened since we've had our last chat. First, I'm going to delay the premiere of the Turn the Radio On video, as I'm sure you can understand, with all the developments currently happening here. I'm a bit distracted, and I'm not feeling in the right frame of mind to release this video and celebrate this work with you at the moment, but I'm sure that it will happen very soon. So just be patient with me, and I will announce the date we will release this video. I have to say, like so many of you all around the world, I too watched in horror the events of January 6th. What happened was unthinkable. I mean, this is not what anyone would expect to see in a democratic country like the United States. I remember the very first time that I went to Washington, D.C. I was traveling with my high school choir to perform on the Capitol stairs. And what a big deal, what an honor this was for us. We took the big yellow school bus all the way down to Washington, 5-hour trip from New York. And we were just filled with awe to be there. This is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world, the center of American democracy, where Lincoln worked, where the Civil Rights Acts were passed. And there we were on the East Stairs to perform our program, among other songs, the Hallelujah Chorus from Mendel's Messiah. And I love singing that because I had the soprano part. What fun that was. But instead of watching what would normally be a ceremonious procedure on Wednesday, we saw absolute chaos erupt on those very stairs and saw the Capitol evacuated, barricades broken, lawmakers sheltering in place, told to grab their gas masks, hiding under desks, shots fired, vandalism. People died. A police officer murdered by a protester with a fire extinguisher. The protesters included neo-Nazis. One even pictured wearing a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt. Hard to imagine. Hard to imagine images of Confederate flags flying alongside the American flag on the steps of the Capitol building. In Trump's speech before the riot, he encouraged his supporters to go down to the Capitol. He said, "Walk down Pennsylvania Avenue and go to the Capitol to give weak Republicans the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. And when he says our country, that's not my country. That's his country. His country doesn't even belong to his supporters, which is what is so tragic about this. They don't even realize that Trump does not have their interests at heart, only his own. Our 44th president, Barack Obama, said, and I quote, "History will rightly remember today's violence at the Capitol, incited by a sitting president who has continued to baselessly lie about the outcome of a lawful election as a moment of great dishonor and shame for our nation. But we'd be kidding ourselves if we treated it as a total surprise." And that's the question I have. Why are we surprised? What have we not seen over the course of 5 years from Donald Trump that would surprise us in this moment? So let me just back up and give you some insight into the importance of what this Capitol building means to us Americans, for my friends overseas. And I will share a comment from George Will, who is an American conservative political commentator. He writes for the Washington Post, the New York Times. He's a contributor for MSNBC. In fact, the Wall Street Journal called him perhaps the most powerful journalist in America. And although he is on the opposite side of the aisle politically from where I am, I have tremendous respect for him. He's a brilliant mind, and he sees complex issues with great clarity. So he said, "The Capitol, not the White House, is the altar of our democracy, the sacred gathering spot of those who served, strove, and died building this nation." He recalls a story when he was 14 years old and for the very first time walked through the halls of the Capitol and was so in awe, and he wanted people to think that he belonged there. So he walked as briskly as his little legs could take him. And he was fortunate, Senator Brown of Ohio took him to the Senate floor and showed him how generations of senators had carved their names in the drawers of the desks. He said, ancient hands, with their penknives scratching away in the wood, a centuries-long parade of lives dedicated in their imperfect ways to our country. So, what did go wrong? After Trump incited protesters to storm the Capitol on Wednesday, there's a near universal view among top officials that he is unfit and unhinged. Unfit and unhinged. Now there's a universal view. Why couldn't they see that before? Or did they see that because it's been so well documented? Why did they fail to stand up against it? If you Google warning signs that Trump is a fascist, you will need the better part of the next 10 years to read everything that you find. There are thousands of articles written by dedicated journalists who with the greatest amount of integrity and sincerity, have done their due diligence in reporting. There are accounts, books written about Trump's unfit mentality to serve as president. There is even a book written by someone who was in the inside, one of Trump's top senior officials. And initially, the interesting thing about this is the article, this book was originally published as an article anonymously in the New York Times as an op-ed piece. And that came out in 2018. And it was later revealed that it was written by the Department of Homeland Security, Miles Taylor. And I heard an interview with him yesterday. And Miles said that the White House was in utter and complete chaos. The administration was completely unstable, and all of the top senior officials were there just doing their best to keep Donald Trump's worst instincts in check. He said, and I quote, "We were working diligently from within to frustrate parts of Trump's agenda and his worst inclinations," adding, "I would know. I am among them." This book and so many others are no secret to the people who we've entrusted to be our lawmakers and our representatives. Why, I ask, has it taken this long for so many of them to stop enabling a president who is unfit? Okay, we know that there is political pressure from their constituencies. There's political aspirations breaking with a powerful figure like Donald Trump has consequences. But at what point do you sell out the American people and our Constitution to support someone who is deemed unfit? At what point does your conscience have to create such an overwhelming necessity for you to stop enabling an unfit president? Now Republicans are furious with Trump. They're furious. They're resigning. They're furious. Now, 13 days to go. They see that he's responsible for whipping up an attack on the American democracy, disgracing their party, and invading the sanctity of their chambers, which he has. Paul Cruz, in his op-ed today in the New York Times, why have so many public figures who should have known what Trump and his movement were, why did they try again and again to placate them by giving them everything they demanded? Okay, they looked the other way and they let him have what he wanted. They never held him accountable. And some of them are even doing that now. So Paul continues to say, if history teaches us one lesson about dealing with fascists, it's the futility of appeasement. What happens is it just encourages them to go further and further. And that is exactly what has happened. Let me jump ahead. I researched a list of undeniable signs that indicated Donald Trump was indeed a fascist. Now, it is a long list, friends. But the signs, I mean, these are articles that were written in 2016, and already the evidence was abundantly clear. So here, I'm going to share with you a few of the undeniable signs that Donald Trump is a fascist. Powerful and continual message of nationalism. You know, there's these logos, mottos, make America great again. This nationalistic pride. America is a great nation. But that doesn't mean we have to be the greatest nation on the planet. We should be a great nation among many other great nations. Here's another sign. A disdain for the recognition of human rights. Number 3, identification of enemies, scapegoats as a unifying cause, right? If y'all hate the same people, you're stronger together. The supremacy of the military, rampant sexism. And you know, from my own personal experience, I can tell you firsthand account. Yes, I am one of the women who was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump. For me, it happened in an elevator at the Plaza Hotel. And for me, it ended very well because I checked out of that hotel into another where I met and married the manager of the other hotel. Some of you know that story. Okay, fascists will also do everything they can to control mass media. So the first thing they do is they discredit the media. Not only do they discredit them, but they endanger their lives. They become the enemy. A disdain for intellects and the arts. The arts, I take personal offense at that. There is an obsession with crime and punishment. I mean, there are so many examples of these things throughout the course of the presidency. There's so many, but there's one, when I read that, I immediately was reminded of when Trump was trying to build this wall between Mexico and the United States. He asked if there was anything they could, a special paint they could put on the wall that would be extra painful because it would get so hot it would burn people trying to climb over. Okay. And of course, I'll end with this rampant corruption. Okay, we've seen time and time again, no respect for the law, for the Constitution, for democracy. And my friends, there are so many more examples, and there are so many detailed, specific representations of each of these and the many more signs of fascism that substantiate the proof. So, back to my questions. Why wasn't there enough security? There was an utter, complete systemic failure on the part of police. They knew that there was going to be protests. It was announced, not only by Trump right before, but for weeks and months since Trump lost the election. He's been stoking this. It's been all over the internet, and not just the dark internet. It's been publicly on display for everyone to see. Now, I have to say, If this was a Black Lives Matter demonstration, by the way, 98% of those were completely peaceful. Could you imagine if Black folks had stormed the Capitol and got into the Senate floor? Could you imagine the blood of those protesters? And yet, we could see from the footage and from all the selfies and video that these protesters, and I think it's a mistake to call them protesters. They should be identified as rioters. Okay, they were not treated in the same way at all. For me, it looked like a tailgate party. I was watching MSNBC saying they're all hanging out there. Nobody is ashamed. They're proud. They're proud of what they've done. They're not wearing masks, and they're not covering their faces in shame. I mean, they've broken the law, and this is federal property. This is a federal offense. This is serious stuff. And yet, it appeared that the Capitol Police at one point were moving barricades aside. It appears it'll be investigated. It appears that there was an officer taking a selfie with one of the rioters. I've been to Black Lives Matter protests here in New York, and I can tell you the police presence is overwhelming. And just think back about the police and military presence in Lafayette Square, how they used tear gas and rubber bullets to clear peaceful protesters so that Trump could have a photo op with a Bible. You put that image and the image of the military police lining the steps of the Capitol side by side in riot gear. Nobody was getting in to any of those buildings. And you look at these images side by side, and it doesn't make sense. So when you talk about racism in America, here it is on full display. Look how differently these white rioters were treated compared to peaceful Black and brown protesters. It's shameful. And I hear people saying, this is not who we are. We're better than this. Yes, we are better than this. But yes, this is who we are. These people didn't come down from Mars. They're Americans. They are our fellow American citizens. And they're victims. They're victims of lies and of an alternate reality that was created by a sitting president. I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or whether to feel disgust. I'm brokenhearted, and I don't know. I don't know how to reach people who have been brainwashed. They've been radicalized. They've become domestic terrorists. And, I think when they just want to be free. Freedom. Everything is about their individual expression of freedom. Yet, they are doing all of this under a gross umbrella of lies. So, how free are they? You are not truly free if you are not fighting for the truth and justice. But how do we pierce the illusion? How do we get through? And then I start to realize I have to accept there are some of these Trump supporters who know it's a lie, who know that 7 million more votes went to Joe Biden. But they want to discredit those votes because they come from places like Phoenix and Milwaukee and Detroit and Pittsburgh, where there's a lot of minority voters who cast their vote. So basically, what they're saying is, see, they will never outright admit to being racist. They hide the truth behind the lie of a fraudulent election. But what they're really saying is, I don't want the votes of black and brown people to count. That's not my America. My America is represented by a Confederate flag. And my America has me sacking the Capitol with people wearing MAGA hats and neo-Nazi clothing. But we have to accept that this is who we are. It's not a majority of who we are, but these folks are our fellow citizens, and we have to find a way to reach them. Just with the truth. We're all allowed to disagree. I mean, that's the beauty of our Constitution. Debate and disagreement and deal making and everyone fighting for their interests is what happens in the Capitol. Let's agree to disagree. We have laws we follow to ensure our democracy. But democracy is fragile. And because of that, I absolutely believe that Congress should invoke the 25th Amendment right now. But I doubt it will happen. I'm praying it will happen because it's the cleanest, quickest path to remove an unfit president from office. But still, even though Trump sent a mob that could have potentially assassinated Pence, because he was there, the mob was right outside the door from where he was. And that's why I believe that one woman protester was shot, because she was a threat to the vice president. So even though Trump sent his hitmen to create this kind of carnage, Pence, I don't believe, will have the backbone to stand up against him, even now. We'll see. But impeachment will be the next course of action. Not a lot of time. The Senate is in recess. Everyone's gone home, just like all the rioters. After it was over, you know what happened? They all just went home. There were a handful of arrests, but the majority of them went home to brag about what they did, to share their selfies and their videos. And this is America. But what I will say is I do believe in the strength of our democracy. And I do believe in the goodness of people when they have access to the truth and the facts. And I believe we have reached the crossroads in our history. And this definitive moment in time is going to put us on a different course. A course where I think good is going to be good again. Decency is going to be appreciated and respected. Where people do consider their fellow human beings as much as or more than themselves. I think this is a tremendous opportunity. You know, we've ripped open the wounds of this country and we see how ugly and how dangerous. And I think we have a lot of soul searching to do. But in the days and the weeks and the years ahead, as many books are written about what happened and historians make sense and untangle the mess and the chaos that we've witnessed firsthand, I think we will be a stronger democracy as a result of it. And we can and we will continue to be a beacon of democratic hope around the world. Friends, I will see you next Friday. Meantime, be well and be safe.